सा ये शास्त्रा विधिम उत्सर्य यज्ञाते श्रद्धयान्विता तेसम निसंतु तूका कृष्ण सात्वम अहो राजस्तमः.
Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who...
Oh, I missed such a stupid. Oh no, that A wasn't there. No, it wasn't. That wasn't there.
Just bear with me. We've got someone who's not muted themselves. Okay, I'm sorry, Steffi. You please carry on.
That's fine. Oh yeah, thank you. Again, Mr. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? Hare Krishna.
17.2 Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Trivida Bhavanti Shraddha Dehinam Sa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Keva Tamsi Setu Tam Shunu.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of three kinds, in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this.
17.3 Satvana Pura Saraswaya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata Shraddha Mayo Yam Puruso Yo Yat Shraddha Sa Ivasa.
O sons of Bharata, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith, according to the modes he has acquired.
17.4 Yajante Satvika Devan Yakarakasmi Rajasa Pritan Bhuta Ganase Sanaye Yajate Tamasa Jana.
Men in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. Those in the mode of passion worship the demons, and those in the mode of ignorance worship ghosts and spirits.
17.56 Asastra Vihitam Ghoram Tapyante Ye Tapojana Dambhakara Samyukta Kamaraga Balvante Karasyanta Sarirastham Bhut Gramanan Asitasa Mam Sevanta Sarirasthanam Ta Vidyu Asura Nishachyan.
Those who undergo severe austerities and penance, not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the supersoul dwelling within, are known to be as demons.
17.7 Ahrastavi api sarvasya Trividho bhavati priya Yajnas tapas tatha danam Tesam bhedam imam shrunu.
Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds according to the three modes of material nature. The same is true sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now hear of the distinctions between them.
17.8 Avyu Sattva Balorogya Sukha Priti Vivadana Rasayan Snigdha Sthira Hriday Ahara Satvika Priya.
Foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life. Purity one's existence and gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasant to the heart.
17.9 Katva Amla Lavanyatya Usna Tiksna Ruksu Vadinana Ahara Rajasestya Dukkha Sokamya Prada.
Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause distress, misery, and disease.
17.10 Yata yama gata rasam puti parustyam sa yat uchistam api kamadhyam bhojanam tamasa priyam.
Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness.
17.11 Abhal ka कांक्षभिर यजनो विधि दिस्तो या इजायते यवस्तवम इवति मना समाधया सा सात्विका.
Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture is a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness.
Seventeen point 12 अभिसंध्या तु फलम दम भारतम अपि कैवयत इजायते भरता श्रेष्ठ tam yajnam vidhi rajasam.
But the sacrifice performed for some material benefit or for the sake of pride, O chief of the Bharatas, you should known to be in the mode of passion.
17.13 Vidhi hinam astanananyam mantri hinam adaksinam shraddha viridam yajanam tamsam pariksate.
Any sacrifice performed without regard for the directions of Scripture, without distribution of prasadam, spiritual food, without chanting of the Vedic hymns and remunerations to the priests, and without faith is considered to be in the mode of ignorance.
17.14 Dev Davija Guru Prajana Pujam Socham Ajavanam Brahmacharyam Ahimsa Sa Sariram Tapa Uchayate.
Austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord. The Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and superiors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence.
17.15 Anutvega Karam Vakyam Satwa Priya Hitam Sayat Swadhyaye Bhashanam Keva Vanmayam Tapa Uchayate.
Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature.
17.16 Mana Prasada Somayatvam Maunam Atma Vinigraha Bhava Samusthir Itat Tapo Manam Uchayate.
And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control, and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind.
17.17 Shraddha Pranaya Tapatam Tapastatrivridham Narayan Apal Lakanksibhir Yukaktya Satvikam Parisakte.
This threefold austerity, performed with transcendental faith by men not expecting material benefits but engaged only for the sake of the Supreme, is called austerity in goodness.
17.18 Satkara Mana Pujartam Tapo Dambhena Kevayat Kriyate Tad Iha Proktam Rajasam Kalam Adhurvam.
Penance performed out of pride and for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and worship is said to be in the mode of passion. It is neither stable nor permanent.
17.19 मुधा गृह्णत मानो यत् पिदाया कृताय तपा परुष्यात्तरणार्थ या तत्तप्सम उदारतम.
Penance performed out of foolishness, with self-torture, or to destroy or injure others, is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
17.20 दात्वयम इति यादनम देयाते नुपकारणे देसे कालासे पात्रेसा तद्दनम सात्विकम समर्थम.
Charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person is considered to be in the mode of goodness.
17.21 यत्तु प्रत्युपकारार्थम पहलम उदिस्त्या या पुनः दियाते सा परिक्लिस्तम तद्दनम राजसम समर्थम.
But charity performed with expectation of some return, or with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion.
17.22 अदेसा काले यदा धनम अपार्थेभ्यास साध्याते असत्कृतम अवाचनतम तत्तमसम उदारतम.
And charity performed at an impure places and at an improper time to unworthy persons or without proper attention and respect is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
17.23 ओम तत् सदा इति निर्देशो ब्रह्माणस्त्रिविधा समर्थः ब्रह्माणस्तेन विदासा यजना सा वहिता पुरा.
From the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmanas while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme.
(17.24) तस्मत् ओम इत्या उदारभत्या यजनादानं तपा कृपया प्रवर्तने विधुनाक्ता सतातं ब्रह्मा वेदनम.
Therefore, transcendentalists undertaking performances of sacrifice, charity, and penance in accordance with scriptural regulations begin always with Om to attain the Supreme.
17.25 तद इति अनाभिसंधया पहलम यजना तपा क्रिया दना कृताया सा विविधा क्रियांते मोक्ष कनक्षिभिः.
Without desiring fruitive results, one should perform various kinds of sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from material entanglement.
17.26-27 सद भवे साधु भवे सा सद इते इत प्रयुज्याते प्रशास्ते कर्मणि तथा सच चबादा पार्थायुज्यते यज्ञे तपसि दाने सा स्थित सात इति को कियते कर्मा कैव तत् अरिथ्यम सद इति इवाभिधेयते.
The absolute truth is the object of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called sat, as are all works of sacrifice, penance, and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Prita.
17.28 अश्रद्धया हुतं दातं तपास्तपत्वं कृतं सायत् असद इति उच्यते पार्थ न सता तत् प्रेत्या नो इह.
Anything done as sacrifice, charity, or penance without faith in the Supreme or Son of Prita is impermanent. It is called asat and is useless both in this life and the next.
Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatu Brahma Vidyam Yogashate Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Shraddha Tray Vibhag Yog Nama Saptasho Adhyay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Amit Prabhu, for this wonderful recitation of the Sanskrit. You attempted it, you were brave, which is good. And Alexandra Mataji and Steffi, thank you for your wonderful recitation of the English. I just want to say a few words about Alexandra Mataji and Steffi, because reading and hearing about them, I felt so inspired. Alexandra Mataji is a working mom, but she, Prabhu and Steffi, they've started an ISKCON center in Glastonbury. And they really make a huge effort to extend themselves to the non-devotees and the devotees. They prepare prashadam, they have a program at their center, they have classes online with the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's truly inspiring what you're doing to spread Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's and Srila Prabhupada's mission. So thank you so much. You are an inspiration to all of us, and I feel honored that you're joining us on this chat session. Thank you so much.
Gratitude, Prabhu. We don't deserve your kind words, and gratitude for the devotees for allowing us to be here with them. Haribo.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So I'll share my screen. Today we will continue with our study and discussion of the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, entitled The Divisions of Faith. We'll just start off by, okay, let me recite the Mangala Charan and praise before we speak anything else. And welcome to everyone to today's chat session. We have 44 members that have joined us today. If any of you are joining us for the first time, a very warm welcome to our group. And we hope you find today's session beneficial. We like to be interactive, and we welcome discussion among the group. The way we normally conduct our session, I am the facilitator. We read the verses, both Sanskrit and English, of a particular chapter. We're reading chapter 17, and thereafter we select one verse to discuss in further detail. And we have questions, comments, and reflections at the end. So today we'll be focusing on text number 7. So we start off by invoking auspiciousness by chanting the Mangala Charanam praise, and you can join in behind muted mics. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadishatarine. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today we'll read text number 7. As we've been discussing in previous verses, just the context of this chapter. In the previous chapter, the Lord had discussed two types of people in direct opposites. By the way, can you hear me clearly? I'm not using my mic.
Yes, we can. We can, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
So in chapter 16, Krishna explained two extremes, diametrically opposed classes of people. And Krishna had categorized them in one sense upon one main criteria. And that's the abiding to the scriptures. So the demoniac persons, they do not abide by the scriptures. And the divine persons, the devotees, they live their lives in accordance with the scriptures. In this chapter, Arjuna is inquiring about a different class of people. These people, they in the middle. They're in the middle. They have faith, but they do not follow the scriptures. Their faith is not based on the scriptures. So this is what Krishna starts to enlighten Arjuna about the nature of such persons. And today's verse, the Lord will give, before he starts to explain in much more detail, he'll give some broad categories by which these distinctions can be made. So we shall read text number 7. Aharas tuapi sarvasya trivedo bhavati priyaha yagnastapas tatadhanam tesham vedam imam shrino. Word for word translation by Srila Prabhupada. Aharaha, eating. 2, certainly. Api, also. Sarvasya, of everyone. Trividha, of 3 kinds. Bhavati, there is. Priyaha, diya. Yagna, sacrifice. Tapaha, austerity. Tata, also. Dhanam, charity. Tesham, of them. Vedham, the differences. Imam, this. Shrinu, here. So, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Even the food each person prefers is of 3 kinds, according to the 3 modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifices, austerities, and charity. Now, here of the distinctions between them. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In terms of different situations in the modes of material nature, there are differences in the manner of eating and performing sacrifices, austerities, and charity. They are not all conducted on the same level. Those who can understand analytically what kind of performances are in what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate, and they are foolish. They are missionary workers who advocate that one can do whatever he likes and attain perfection But these foolish guides are not acting according to the direction of the scripture. They are manufacturing ways and misleading the people in general. So Srila Prabhupada is making the very important point in this purport, that all food, sacrifice, and austerities and charity are not the same. They are different results, different levels, and according to the different levels, then one gets a different results. And according to the modes of nature one has acquired, determines which level one performs a sacrifice, austerities, and charities. Prabhupada makes the very important point at the end of this purport, that there are many missionary workers. And Prabhupada is not talking about the Christian missionary workers here. Srila Prabhupada is referring to the many so-called saints, yogis, and holy men that preach. And there is a large section of those who preach so-called Hindu Dharma that says, Krishna says, do whatever you like, but offer that result unto me. They interpret Krishna's message of the Bhagavad Gita like that. Krishna says, Krishna doesn't want to prescribe what to do. Neither should we as missionaries prescribe to you what to do. You do what you like to do, but just offer that result to God. And they're not even specific about who that God is. And Srila Prabhupada says they are misleading the people, because this is not the Bhagavad Gita. As we are reading in this chapter here, Krishna is very, very specific. The Lord is very, very specific. He's telling with absolute clarity, he's giving instructions that you do not get the same result of whatever you do. And this notion that one can do whatever one wants to do, then offer the result to Krishna, that is, as Prabhupada would use the word bogus. It's not what's stated in the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna will go to great lengths to draw the distinction. So those will be the subsequent verses that we're going to read. What is sacrifice? What is food in the mode of goodness? What is food in the mode of passion? What is food in the mode of ignorance? What is charity in the mode of goodness? Charity in the mode of passion? Charity in the mode of ignorance? What is austerity in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance? And what is sacrifices in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance? And in the conclusion to chapter 16, in text 24, Srila Prabhupada makes the point very clear. He says, therefore Maya, the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always giving us trouble in the shape of threefold miseries. This material energy is constituted of the three modes of nature. One has to raise himself at least to the mode of goodness before the path to understanding the Supreme Lord can be opened. Without raising oneself to the standard of the mode of goodness, one remains in ignorance and passion, which are the cause of demoniac life. Essentially, Srila Prabhupada is saying, if you fall from the mode of goodness into the mode of passion or ignorance, then that is the cause of demoniac life. These modes of passion and ignorance will lead one to demoniac life. And Prabhupada says, those in the modes of passion and ignorance, what is their nature? by nature, they will deride the scriptures. They will deride the holy men, and they will deride the proper understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I've just given one example now of so-called holy men who misinterpret the scriptures. So we should be aware of that. So so just one interesting point before we discuss these different facets. If we look at these three activities, food means eating, sacrifices, austerity, and charity. These are essential activities. These are activities that everyone has to perform, anyone who is in the human form of life. Food one has to eat. Prabhupada said the 4 propensities of life is to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Towards the end of Srila Prabhupada's stay on this planet, Srila Prabhupada had practically stopped eating. He was just taking a little water, some little liquid. And that was for a few months. And one day, he jokingly said, in my stage of life, there is no question of mating. I am hardly sleeping. There's no question of defending. Now the last activity, even eating, I've stopped. So therefore I must be liberated. He jokingly said that. But Srila Prabhupada, we know by being a pure devotee, he was already liberated. But he was just making this point. So if we notice these 4 activities, these are essential for human life. And we will talk about sacrifices, austerity, and charity. If one is not performing sacrifices, yagya, austerities, tapa, and charity, dan, then one is not considered to be very advanced in human life. And food everyone eats. So these are essential activities, essential duties. And food is essential for our sustenance. And sacrifice, austerities, and charity are essential activities for our purification. So it's very interesting that Krishna has chosen these 4 activities to speak about in particular in this chapter. Because everyone is sustained by food, and everyone should perform these 3 activities for purification. So food. In the 3rd chapter, Krishna explains about the nature of food. And food by its very nature, when one consumes it, one has to be implicated in some karma. Because whether it's meat or it's vegetables, there is some sort of killing involved. So Krishna says in the 3rd chapter, Yagna Shishastana Shanto, that the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sin because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. And then Krishna goes on to say, all living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by performance of sacrifice, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So in this third chapter, these verses, Krishna is linking the performance or the act of eating directly with the performance of sacrifice. And Krishna says, those who eat food which is not offered for sacrifice, such people, they eat only sin, because all food is tainted with some killing activity. But the devotees of the Lord who offer their food to Krishna first as sacrifice, such living entities, they are freed from all kinds of sin. So in the subsequent verse, Krishna will mention foods in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And immediately from hearing that, we will understand which foods are suitable to be offered as sacrifice. So this is the link. Krishna will only accept food that is cooked in the mode of goodness, that is coming in the mode of goodness. And the other types are not. So you can only offer a certain type of food for sacrifice. Like some people may challenge. So Krishna says, every food that is offered to him for sacrifice, that becomes freed from sin. So I'll cook some meat and then I'll offer that meat to Krishna as sacrifice. Krishna is saying no. Food in the mode of passion and ignorance, that is not offerable for sacrifice. And then Krishna is further on explaining that all living entities subsist on food grains, and food grains are produced by rains. And rain is produced by the performance of sacrifice. And sacrifice is born out of prescribed duties, meaning that all of us have prescribed duties in the different varna and ashrams. And according, all of those prescribed duties involve sacrifice, regulation. And rains is linked to food, and rain is obtained by sacrifice. And Krishna finally concludes by saying, regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas and are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of God. And the Lord is situated in all sacrifice. So now let's just talk about the importance of sacrifices. We've touched upon it in the previous verse. In the 10th verse, Krishna says, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with the sacrifices of Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yagya, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. So here it's very clearly said, any living entity who wants to live happily and who wants to achieve liberation, they have to perform sacrifice. Because by performance of sacrifice only is the Lord pleased. And just logically speaking, people who are not performing sacrifice, they are like ungrateful thieves. Just like we are receiving electricity at the moment. That electricity is being provided by the electricity board. If I don't pay my dues for receiving this electricity, then according to just civilized law, I'm known as a thief. Because I am taking something and I don't want to give adequate compensation in return. So all living entities, they are being performed, they are being supplied with all necessities of life by the 33 million demigods. But Krishna says it's not possible for us to satisfy 33 million demigods. Neither is it necessary. Simply by performing yagya, sacrifices for the pleasure of Vishnu, then automatically the demigods are satisfied and we have paid our dues. And those, just like thieves, can never be happy. And they can never be satisfied. So those who do not perform sacrifices, they will never be happy, never achieve liberation. Therefore, sacrifices are essential. So Krishna will explain now what are the different types of sacrifice in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And we know any sacrifices in the mode of passion and ignorance is no good for us. So we have to understand what is that sacrifice in the mode of goodness that we will perform. And if we do that, Krishna says, what will become the consequence? We will be happy and we will attain liberation. And Krishna says in the 9th verse, work done as a sacrifice to Vishnu, it has to be performed. It's not optional, it's mandatory. And what is the consequence of one who does not perform sacrifice? Such work he performs will cause bondage in this material world. And therefore Krishna says, therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in this way you will always remain free from bondage. This is absolutely. For those of you all are wondering, we will speak about it later. In this age of Kali, we have to perform only one sacrifice. And this sacrifice is so powerful that nothing can compare to the sacrifice. This sacrifice gives the ultimate pleasure to the Lord. It gives ultimate pleasure to the soul. And it can give the soul not only any mundane type of liberation, but it can give the soul the highest form of spiritual benefit, not obtainable by any other sacrifice. And that sacrifice is Sankirtan Yagya. Sankirtan Yagya, the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. San means together. Kirtan means congregational chanting. So when people perform congregational chanting, there is just unlimited benefit for everyone involved. And then Krishna says in text number 11, the demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you. And thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So when you perform sacrifices, the demigods, it's just like it is said in one of the scriptures, that for those who perform Sankirtan Yagya, the demigods are just waiting. They're just waiting to benedict those people. Whatever you want, just say it. We are here to benedict you. They are just waiting to please you, as Krishna says. They will please you also. They will also please you. The demigods, when they see the devotees performing Sankirtan Yagya, they're just super enthusiastic to please such devotees. Now we'll talk about austerities, and we're moving on a bit in time. So briefly, I'll just speak about some austerities. We know the very important verse from the 5th canto, 5th chapter, text number 1, where, I didn't put the translation here, where King Rishabdev, he tells his sons about the importance of performing sacrifices. Please, Elizabeth, just bring it up. I copied and pasted, but I didn't. I want to give the translation as it is, so just bear with me. So Lord Rishabhdev tells his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat straw. So Rishabhdev is telling his sons, please, you've got a human body. Don't work hard day and night for gratifying your senses, because even the dogs and hogs have this. So what should we do? He says, one should engage in penance and austerities to attain the divine position of devotional service. And what is the result of such activity? By such activity, one's heart is purified. And when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So Rishabhdev tells his son, the main business of the human form of life is devotional service. And in devotional service, austerities is important, because by that austerities, one purifies one's heart. And only with a pure heart can one offer pure devotional service. So austerities are very important. So Krishna will talk about what are the austerities in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But first, we've got to understand the importance of austerities. Then charity. Charity means dan. And charity is the voluntary act of giving to those in need. And it is said in the Rig Veda that those who give dan, they relish immortality. And those who engage in dan, they live a long life. So giving in charity means we are in the consciousness that when I give charity, we are never at a loss. When we give charity, we gain. There is this one wonderful verse I was reading today. I will just share that with you very quickly. I know I'm going a bit over time, but it's such a beautiful verse. And this verse is from the Subhashita Ratna. And its translation, it says, whatever you give as dan to people worthy of charity, and whatever you consume yourself, these two are your actual wealth. Every other wealth is being maintained by you for someone else. So this verse is saying, our real wealth is twofold. Whatever we consume ourselves, if we have wealth, we consume it, that's for our benefit. And whatever you give to others in charity, that is the second wealth you have. Because not only in this life, but in your next life, in our next lifetime, that benefit of dan will come back to our benefit. There's a famous saying, the most charitable person in the universe is the miser. He gives away all his wealth to others without touching it with his own hands. The miser doesn't want to touch money in the firm, touch it and give it to someone else. But he is the most charitable person in the universe because he will be forced to give it. But an intelligent person will just give it naturally and spontaneously because that becomes his wealth. Because the physical wealth of money will not come to us after death. But the wealth of the charity we've given, that will stay with us after death. So that wealth has got a longer lifespan than the wealth and the money and the assets we have in this life. And I'll just conclude by saying the wonderful story of Ranti Dev in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm saying it's 836. And maybe you can read it yourself. I'll share the slides. There's this beautiful story in the 9th canto, 29th chapter of King Rantidev.
Please, Prabhuji, carry on. Don't worry, doing later.
Okay. So in the Bhagavatam, there's a story of King Rantidev. And King Rantidev, he was always engaged in the service of the Lord with his mind, words, and his self. And he was so exalted that he would give away his own food in charity. And sometimes even his family would fast. He would fast. So once Rantidev, King Rantidev, he fasted for 48 days. And after fasting for 48 days, not even drinking water, some excellent food was prepared with ghee. And it was brought to him to relish. And just as he was about to take, this is all the Lord's arrangement to glorify King Rantidev, his devotee. So just as he was about to eat, a Brahmana appeared. So immediately what Rantidev did, the Brahmana came, he took a portion of the food. He didn't eat first, he offered it to the Brahmana. And when the Brahmana left, Rantidev was just about to take whatever was left. And then a Shudra appeared. And then Rantidev divided what was left for the Shudra and himself. And just as he was about to, after he had fed the Shudra and he had left, he was about to take that was left. Then another guest appeared. And Rantidev was giving whatever was remaining to the guest. And not all that was left for him was water to quench his thirst. And as he was about to quench his thirst, another guest appeared. And Rantidev gave him the water. So this was all ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to glorify his devotee and to show how tolerant a devotee is in rendering service to the Lord. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being pleased with Rantidev, he entrusted him with very confidential service. And Prabhupada concludes his narrative on this part by saying something very nice. The special power to render the most confidential service is entrusted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to a pure devotee, not to ordinary devotees. A pure devotee in the sense that this pure devotee is completely charitable at heart. Completely charitable at heart. And when Krishna sees such a devotee with a completely charitable heart, Krishna bestows that devotee with confidential service. These are some pictures of King Rantidev. And then in the 6th canto, chapter 10, we also see the amazing story of Dadichi Rishi. Dadichi Rishi. And some of you may know the story that Vritrasura was cursed to become a demon. And Vritrasura was just, the demigods couldn't contend with Vritrasura. They tried to fight with him, they were completely defeated. So they went to Lord Vishnu and they asked Lord Vishnu, how can we defeat this Vritrasura? It seems like he's undefeatable. And the Lord says, you prepare a thunderbolt with the bones of a great rishi. And this thunderbolt will have the power to kill Vritrasura. And then it says, where will there ever be a rishi that will give us his bones to be crushed to make a thunderbolt? And the Lord says, you go and you meet the Dadichi Rishi, and he will do it. So the demigods go to the Dadichi Rishi, and they tell him, we are here, this is our purpose, we have to kill Vritrasura, and we need your bones. And then Dadichi, he says, oh no, don't you know how painful it is? How painful the time of death is? How severe, unbearable it is? How can any living entity willingly give up his body? And then he says the body is very, very dear to the living entity. He struggles to keep it forever and protect it. Therefore, it's very hard to give. And then the demigods preach to him. It gives him so many reasons about why a compassionate person will do good for the others and he'll tolerate the pain. And then Dadichi Rishi tells them, I was just testing you. Fine. You can take my bones and you can use it for your purpose. And this is a wonderful story in the 6th canto about someone performing sacrifice. And this beautiful purport Srila Prabhupada gives. So there's so much more to discuss. I just wanted to speak today about the context of the verses I'm going to follow. Why all of these activities are so important. They're so important. We have to perform them, but we have to know what activities we perform in the mode of goodness, because only that will benefit us. So I'll stop here. I'll take any questions, comments, reflections, corrections that anyone may have.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Can you please tell me the benefits of the austerity of Nirjala on Ekadasi?
The austerity of Nirjala Ekadasi. Yes, there are many answers to that question. But it is one singular answer that supersedes all other answers. And that is, why do we do anything we do in Krishna consciousness? And that is to please Krishna. The ultimate purpose of any sacrifice, any austerities, or anything we do is to please Krishna. Just like the Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi is based on the pastime of Bhim. And Bhim was asked to fast. But it was impossible for him to fast. But for the pleasure of Krishna, he fasted. But someone may ask, why does Krishna wants us to suffer? Because austerity means suffering. But as we will see Krishna explain, austerity doesn't necessarily mean suffering. It means some voluntary sacrifice. And that sacrifice will actually, when we fast, it helps us to subdue the tendency to gratify our senses. One of our most significant disease in the material world is this attraction for sense gratification. And when we fast on occasions like Nirjala Ekadasi, which is these festivals they call the mothers of devotion, two things happen. One is the negative tendencies to engage the services and sense gratification are subdued. And at the same time, by subduing those senses during those occasions, we engage our senses more in the service of Krishna, and it pleases Krishna. So maybe a bit long answer, Mataji, but that's sort of the essence of why we fast Nirjala Ekadasi.
No, very nice. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments, reflections? Reflection is not a question. It's not a comment. It's something you've taken away from today's session. So please feel free. It's very encouraging to hear reflections by the different devotees.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Santosh Mataji.
What an amazing class. I really, really enjoyed it today. Really nice. Thank you ever so much.
Oh, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, I wanted to, sometimes we speak about these verses and we hear the verses, but the importance of the activity we don't give much focus on. So I thought we'll maybe give some attention to that today. All right, if there's no further questions. Everyone, oh, there's one message come through. Let me see. Okay, thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. Okay, there's a few questions coming up on the chat. Rita Kumari Mataji is asking, I want to ask you, can a person fast on the next day if he has not been able to fast on the actual Ekadasi today? Yes. I know of devotees who do that. And I also know of senior devotees who have said, if you missed it or you are unable to do it, you can do it the next day. There's some difference, but it's the whole principle of wanting to please Krishna.
Hare Krishna now, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Palika Mataji.
I was told that if you somehow missed the Ekadashi day, you can't do it on the next day. You have to do day after, because the next day is your breaking the fast.
Okay.
Yes. So the day of after, you have to leave a day. Yeah.
Okay. So the day after Ekadasi is Dwadashi.
Yeah.
So Palika Mataji is saying, don't fast on Dwadashi. It's not appropriate for fasting. Fast on the day after Dwadashi. So the second day after Ekadasi.
Yeah, I was told by senior devotee. Thank you.
So that's very valuable to know, Mataji. Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Chandrika Mataji. Hare Krishna.
I was told that I could fast on that. I was also told, because I once missed it.
Yeah.
I was told to fast on Devadashi. It's fine, because you're pleasing the Lord, and it was done obviously not to because I knew I should be doing.
Yes. I also heard that. So, there may be some difference, but let's just take the principle. Let's just take the principle here. The overall principle is to please Krishna. So we please Krishna on the day. I mean, we could research this, but just for today, the day after or the second day after, the whole principle is we want to do some austerity to please Krishna. And that is what matters the most. The detail may change. The detail may change. The detail may be tomorrow, the day after, or the detail may be the day after. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay. Prabhuji, so this is Rita Kumari over here. So is it okay to fast on the day after tomorrow or tomorrow? And I just want to make sure, because it's become now confusing.
You're confused.
Yeah. So shall I fast tomorrow or day after?
I will research it, but for now, because Palika Mataji is our senior,
yes,
and she's heard it from a senior.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Let's go with what she said. It's the day, not on Dwasi, the day after.
The day after, that means I should fast on the Tuesday.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. So that's all I can say for now. I will try to research it a bit more. But because Palika Mataji, she's our senior, and I trust her. We'll follow what she's heard.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Sorry, Prabhuji, in India, Ekadashi is tomorrow. So this time there are 2 Ekadashis apparently, and ISKCON India are doing it tomorrow. So I don't know whether Mataji can follow that.
That makes it even more confusing, I think.
No, Mataji is gone more confusing.
Yeah, just stick with what Palika Mataji said for now. Okay.
I think we should follow wherever we are staying instead of.
Yes.
So, I think Dwadashi is we can fast on Dwadashi as far as I know, but maybe, Palika Mataji is right.
Okay. I will, let's not get too involved in speculation. I'll have do a little research, and I'll post it on the forum if anything to the contrary appears. And whatever we say has to be supported by some praman, some evidence. So I'll see if I can find some evidence.
Excuse me, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I was listening to Tamal Krishna Maharaj's class today.
Yes.
And he said on one Ekadashi, by mistake, they cooked grain and everyone ate grain. So
Yeah.
Prabhupada was so angry, he made everyone fast next day, Ekadashi.
Okay.
Okay, this is, I heard this morning only, this class. So
you heard it this morning?
That's what I heard from Tamal Krishna Maharaj as well.
Okay, all right. So we're hearing different opinions. So Mataji, whether you fast tomorrow or the day after, you are in a safe position. You are in a safe position.
I hope so, because I have been
because
doing
this is
it before.
Prabhupada said he made everyone fast on Dwadasi.
So Prabhupada said it. So Prabhupada said the day after.
As far as you fast with your pure heart, that's the day. Either Dwadashi or Trayadashi, doesn't matter.
That's
okay.
A good
Yeah.
Okay, Mataji.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. All glories to your service. All glories to
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.